So firstly, I'd like to thank the Ministry of Agriculture for this invitation to speak today. As was mentioned, my name is Monica Burch. I'm from the Finance Support Unit in Brussels. I'm particularly happy to be back in Estonia because Estonia is really proving a model for a dynamic and proactive approach to getting Access 4 implemented. It was also where we hosted our first transnational seminar when Finance Support Unit was first started in 2009, co-organised by the Ministry of Agriculture here in Pärnu. And in fact, I would firstly just like to get an idea of who participated in the seminar in Pärnu. How many people here were present? Yeah, so a few, but not so many. So hopefully what I say today will be a bit new for some of you then. So FARNET. FARNET stands for, in English, the European Fisheries Areas Network. And it's a network of all of those involved in implementing Access 4. So that means the flags, the fisheries local action groups, the networks, the national networks, the managing authorities, us at FARNET, and also the European Commission. And all of these actors together are trying to basically put in place a programme which emphasises local decision-making and a bottom-up approach to designing the future of your fisheries areas. So who is the FARNET Support Unit? I was asked to speak just a little bit about who we are. We're not the European Commission. We are contracted by the European Commission to provide technical assistance, but we're external, so we're supposed to be impartial to what the Commission say, and we'll go between you and the Commission. We're a staff of 8 people in Brussels. We have 1 geographical expert per country, who, depending on the country, will do more or less work for us. In Estonia, we have a very good national network, so we hardly need to use our geographical expert. But this person will basically feed us back information as to what's happening on the ground in each country. And then we have an advisory group of 6 experts coming from the fisheries sector and the environmental sector and from local development. And this advisory group will meet every now and again to discuss issues that are going on and also feed in advice to the European Commission in its discussions for future policy. Okay, so the role of the FARNET Support Unit, we're basically hired to provide technical assistance, animation, coordination, information, and capitalising on experiences. So basically, within that we have 3 main priorities, starting with building capacity in integrated territorial development. So for this we will work with the flags, we'll work with the national networks and the managing authorities to really guide the process of building up the capacity at all levels in territorial development. In some countries, for example, the managing authorities, which is normal, have very little experience in local development because they're fishing departments. And this depends. So this is a process which is involving all the actors and which, when our job is done, we will need to do very little. It's really the national networks which are taking this process forward and supporting the local action groups with their work. Our second priority, and this is perhaps where we come in particularly useful, is transferring good practices. So, as was said, we travel quite a bit, we see what's happening in different areas, and we collect examples of projects which are making a difference in certain areas. And we try and transfer these to other areas to show other fisheries areas what is happening around Europe. And the idea is that they can then take elements of these projects or of these ideas and, based on the context in their area, see which elements of these projects can be used in their area. And finally, moving forward a little bit more for when the flags are up and running and the process is well in place, creating a platform or a voice for local fisheries areas in the wider policy debates. So this is just starting now with the future discussions that are happening in Brussels for the new EFF, the new European Fisheries Fund, and we are there to try and encourage the flags and the actors in their areas to take an active role in feeding in information and saying what is happening and what is necessary for future policy to be successful. So the FARNet tools, what do we actually do? Some of the things we do. Most of what we do you can find on our website at farnet.eu. And on the website we have all sorts of information on the events that we hold, but also basic information which should be useful to fisheries local action groups. So we have the FAQs, the facts, and this in particular I would highlight and really encourage you to use in frequently asked questions. These take a lot of time to develop. They're questions that we get in from the different member states or from local groups on the implementation of Access 4. Is this eligible? Can you do this? What about that? And some of the answers to these are quite technical, and they'll need to go to the Commission, they'll need to go to the legal department. They spend a long time deliberating and come back with a final answer, which we put on our website. And we also translate these into every language, every 21 languages of the countries that are implementing Access 4, so do use them. It's not so easy to find, but basically on the top right-hand side of the website, there's a tiny little E. Look for that, and then you can scroll down and you will find it in Estonian and every other language. Project examples are up on our website. Country information and also flag information. So we're basically asking the flags to fill in fiches, fact sheets on their group. In Estonia, they're almost all completed. And this information is very useful for the other flags who are looking for cooperation partners. They've got your contact details, they have a description of your area and of the main themes that you want to work on. So those of you who haven't finished them, I encourage you to do so, but we're almost there with Estonia. Events, we have information on the events that we hold on our website as well. News and an Access 4 toolbox, which is basically examples of strategies, technical information on local development in general and local development in fisheries areas. We have our magazine, which we do twice a year, a newsletter every month, etc. It's all on the website. And in particular, again, we do good practices. This is something we're only just starting now because we've been waiting for project examples to get off the ground so that we can write them up and showcase them. But this is on our website. If you go down the left-hand column, you'll see good practices. At the moment, good practices we're using in a very loose sense of the word. They're basically project examples. We don't have enough to really say what's good and best practice, but they're project examples that can give you ideas. And there's also a few project examples of non-Access 4 projects. But hopefully I will go away today with a few, or tomorrow, with a few examples of Estonian projects that we can write up and put up on our website, 1, 2 or 3 projects, to show what you're doing here and give other countries ideas. Okay. Finally, on our website, we also have a social networking platform called LinkedIn, which at the moment we have no Estonian subgroup. We have subgroups for quite a few countries, but not Estonia. I understand that you prefer. I think you're already in contact with each other, so you email each other when you need information. But one advantage of using LinkedIn is that you're then linked in with flags from many different countries. So you broaden your scope in terms of asking questions and getting information. You're actually connecting up with lots of different countries. And some of the discussions that are brought up on LinkedIn, again, we'll take, if anything needs clarifying, we'll take it to the Commission, get a definite reply, and that will go into our FAQ section on our website. So just a quick overview of Access 4 implementation in Europe at the moment. There's 21 countries implementing Access 4. 13% of the EFF budget has been dedicated to Access 4, and this means once national co-financing has been added in, that we're talking about 826 million euros in terms of public investment. So those are the countries implementing Access 4. Estonia comes fairly high up in terms of the amount it's dedicated to Access 4. And this is a little map of the countries that are up and running. So in total, we're expecting about 250 local action groups flags around Europe. These are the ones that are going so far. There's 13 countries which have finished their process of selecting the flags. 171 are up and running. We have some more from Lithuania who will be here, I think, within the month. That'll be another 10. So this is where they all are. And in terms of budgets, the budgets vary quite a lot depending on the country. Estonia has quite generous budgets. Bear in mind, I think in Spain, for example, where you have some of the large budgets, you've got up to 10 million in some of the groups, but only 500,000, 1 million in other groups. Their average is actually less than yours here. Poland, you'll see, has got the flags with the biggest budgets. 8 million is the average, but that actually ranges from about 1 million to 18 million, so you get some really huge budgets. And of course, these budgets influence the budgets, and obviously the context of the different areas is going to influence the strategies of these different flags, depending on the strengths and weaknesses of each area. And as I mentioned, budgets will range. This budget range here is the average in each country, but the average, taking the individual flags, you've got budgets that range from 500,000 to 18 million. And so with this, we'll see, for example, that flags with smaller budgets are often integrated with existing organisations like leader groups. They'll concentrate their actions more around soft investment, training for local fishermen, for example, maybe studies, pilot projects. For example, in France, they are paying for half a person to actually be the go-between between the fishermen and the scientific community, with the putting in place of a marine protected area, and actually ensuring that the fishermen's interests are taken into consideration in the management of this marine protected area. Here you're doing work on ports, which is quite unique in the EU, and other countries may be putting resources into diving schools or all sorts of things. In terms of the future of Access 4, discussions are now going on in Brussels as to how they're going, what's going to go into the new regulation. The basic common fisheries policy regulation is due out in May, and then either just before the summer holidays or just after the summer holidays, the Commission will present a proposal for the new financial instrument, the new EFF. The focus at the moment is clearly very much based on the EU 2020 goals, which are smart, green and inclusive growth. And this you'll see running through all the proposals that are coming out now, not only from DG Mare, but also DG Regio, DG Agri, as is an emphasis on growth in jobs and sustainability. So in terms of the priorities for Access 4 in the future, and these were very much conclusions coming out of a lot of the work done by our advisory group, and taken on board by the Commission in their discussions for the Access 4 part of the EFF. These are basically 7 main measures, which we're not wanting to call measures, but rather objectives. They want to leave it as flexible as possible, so that people at a local level can really decide what they put into this. But the focus will be actions that increase the sustainability and competitiveness of the fisheries sector. So this is very much like the present Access 4 in terms of adding value to fisheries. So everything from along the supply chain, as well as creating jobs, and smart investments, so more sustainable fisheries. This is a big priority. Secondly, supporting diversification and job creation in fisheries areas. So this is looking at the horizontal linkages between fisheries and other sectors in your area. Allowing people to take advantage of other emerging marine sectors, as well as other sectors that may have very little to do with fishing, but together build a stronger and more balanced economy in your area. Number 3, promoting green growth, which enhances and valorizes local ecosystems. So this is basically the environmental side. Environmental actions to mitigate climate change. Climate change is a big thing in EU policy at the moment, and actions that feed into this are going to have a large place. Promoting inclusive growth, both social and cultural. So again, this could be projects similar to the present period, which may valorize local fishing heritage and tradition. It may be creating crushes, it may be doing training for the fishing community, etc. Number 5, strengthening the role of fisheries communities in governance. This is one of the main reasons for implementing a bottom-up approach, is to actually involve local actors in how their area is governed, and actions that actually improve links with resource management, for example, or links with bodies that are involved in resource management, integrated coastal zone management, marine spatial planning, etc. Will be a high priority. Then, of course, the support for cooperation between fisheries areas, and finally, transversal measures, pilot projects, research, capacity building, etc. So finally, just a short word on the present discussions in Brussels at the moment. As I mentioned, they're currently working on the new EFF. The other Directorate Generals are working on their new regulations for the next programming period. And at the same time, there's an increasing will to implement a local development strand to all the major funds. So to the regional funds, social fund, DG Agri, which already has one through LEADER, and Access 4 is going to be continued under the EFF. Discussions are going on as to how best to coordinate the local development side of this, how to build on the work of the present flags, i.e. that all the work that's gone on in this programming period is continued. The capacity that has been built up is taken advantage of and will serve to take the work forward in the future. In terms of concentrating resources, these are big discussions and there's no decisions yet, but in terms of the fisheries funds, they're expecting to concentrate the funds in particular on areas with the highest employment in fisheries. At the moment, funds are distributed according to population and GDP. So you'll have areas that have very small fishing sector but have a lot of money because it's a poor country. They want to perhaps balance that a little bit to target the fisheries funds really towards the areas with most employment in fisheries. But again, these are just discussions, nobody really knows quite yet. And then, as I mentioned, there's a commitment at EU level to try and coordinate the different local development initiatives and streamline implementation rules. Depending on the country, in some countries you actually have leader groups that are integrated with flags, so you have one body implementing different funds, but with not completely different rules, but certain different rules, which makes it very complicated. So this sort of thing they're trying to make more simple and more streamlined. The 4 DGs are actually in negotiations with each other to try and get a model that works. And in April, Finance is organising a conference which will bring together representatives from all of these Directorate Generals, as well as fishery stakeholders from around Europe. One flag representative from every country, one managing authority representative from every country, and the idea is to have very concrete discussions on what models could work, what wouldn't work, with this sort of coordination. Okay, so do follow that. I'm sure we'll be putting information up on our website, and there will be two Estonians attending this, so no doubt they will feed information back to you all on the results. So just wishing you a very productive couple of days here. I'm certainly looking forward to hearing more about what the flags are going to say in terms of the activities that they're already carrying out. And again, thank you for the invitation.